All right, guys, today we have got our mini preview and season win total projection here for the Cleveland Browns. This is episode 8 as we go through all 32 teams, checking out their season win total projections as well as mini previews for all of them. And we're going to jump in with the Browns. Their over-under on season wins is 9.5, plus 108 to the over, minus 134 to the under. And we're going to go with the over. We have this on exactly 10 wins, so we're going to go ahead and go over 9.5 here at plus money. That is pretty good value for us. And we're going to get into why right now. So, coaching staff. Stefanski stays head coach. I think he's a little bit underrated. He gets kind of a worse rap than I think he should. Van Pelt is technically the coordinator, I guess, but Stefanski calls a lot of the plays. They work together. And then Jim Schwartz at defensive coordinator we'll get into later on, but a really, really nice pickup there on defense. But let's jump into the roster. It all starts with Deshaun Watson, of course. It's a variety of opinions out there about Deshaun Watson on the football field, and there's some decent numbers there. I don't think he was as bad as it kind of played off as last year. I know there are some numbers there that are being held back by, one, his first game versus the Texans, which is his first NFL game, and God knows how long. Number 2, they had that really weird game where it was like 30-mile-an-hour wind, pouring rain. Nobody's succeeding in that. So if you take those 2 games out, it wasn't too bad. EPA per play was pretty good. And I think a whole off season and jumping in directly into the new season. Last year was kind of weird. He had the off season, but then, he gets the suspension and he's kind of not really getting into it for the first 10 weeks, or was it 10 weeks, 11 weeks? So it was kind of a really weird situation. This should be more streamlined, more direct, more what he's been used to, really, when he was playing in Houston. So we'll see. I think he will take a step forward from last year, even if he doesn't get back to Texans Deshaun Watson. League average really should be enough to bring this team to the playoffs. It could be enough to bring this team to the playoffs on paper, at least. Brissett did a really nice job with the offense last year, and I think Watson is a step above, even if Brissett is a little bit underrated. So if we can get average play out of Deshaun Watson, that would be better than last year probably, and, enough. But I think he can even go above that, so we'll see. Standing behind a really good offensive line. Interior is really, really good. Pochich last year was a really nice surprise at center. If he can keep that up, this is a top 2 interior, really, and then a top 5 line altogether. Teller and Wills last year, took kind of small steps back, but if they get back to their regular levels here, this is a really good offensive line, and it's going to be a struggle to get through. Running back room, not much to say. It's Nick Chubb. He's a top, wherever you want to put him. I think he's the best running back in the league. And they do a good job of resting him, keeping him fresh. Felton's a really nice piece, but of course this is Chubb's room, and while they're in tight games, he'll be the one running the football. Tight end, this is a good group. Bryant's a pretty good player. Njoku's a pretty good player and has really nice tools. He could be better. Whether he makes a really big step or not, I'm not sure, but this is a solid tight end room. And then we head to the wide receiver room, which is really interesting. Really like Amari Cooper as the one. He's a good player, obviously. Peoples-Jones, probably underrated around the league, I suppose, but a good player there. And then they bring in Elijah Moore from the Jets, and he had good underlying numbers, but never really got the ball, so it should be interesting to see how he fits in here. I think he has an opportunity to be a breakout kind of player here if he gets the football. And then they have some pretty decent depth as well. Bell and Tillman over the last draft. They also bought in Marquise Goodwin, which is a really interesting piece. I kind of like that. Some nice speed there, so we'll see what happens, but it's a really deep room and there's a lot of talent there. But let's jump to the defensive side of the ball, and we'll start with Jim Schwartz, who comes in after a really bad year last year for Cleveland, they had one of the worst run defenses ever, I think. It was a dreadful run defense. Pass defense, not great. A lot of injuries at linebacker. Denzel Ward missed time as well, so not great, but Jim Schwartz should come in and stamp his authority and make this his defense really quickly. He's a really good defensive coordinator, really disciplined, and his defenses take noticeable jumps even without talent. So this is a talented defense now, with an equally talented defensive coordinator that could take a really big jump. We'll go to linebacker first. Walker and Owusu-Koramoah, both really good players, both coming off injuries. So we'll see there. I really like Owusu-Koramoah. He's growing every time he's on the field. It seems like he's getting better. Anthony Walker will hope to jump back into this season and really hit the ground running. Koramoah, similar. If they can stay healthy, it's a really good linebacking group. And then we get to the defensive line, which is taking a huge overhaul. Zadarius Smith comes in. How do you say his name? Okoronkwo. Oko, we'll call him. These are two really good pass rushing pieces to go with Myles Garrett. All three of them were in the top 7 most double-teamed pass rushers in the league, and then all three of them were still top 30 in win rate, even though they were getting double-teamed like that. This is 3 really good pass rushers, and you can see obvious passing downs where they come in, and good luck, stopping them. So it's really difficult, but it's going to be really difficult for offensive lines. But the run defense, Dalvin Tomlinson comes in. If he can have a nice partner inside and they can stop the run, that'll be absolutely massive. It's, as we just talked about, the pass rushing is incredible. So if you can get them into a lot of 3rd and longs, you're going to get them off the field a lot with this pass rush. So Tomlinson needs to have a good year, and they need to have a good year stopping the run as a group, and then the rest will just fall into place. Secondary, similar to last year, Denzel Ward will need to stay healthy this year, go across from Newsome. Thornhill comes in for John Johnson, a bit younger, a bit quicker. So we'll see with the secondary, but potentially, talent-wise, top 10-ish group, potentially a top 10-ish group. The pass rush looks really good, so they may not have to cover as long this year as well. So potential on this defense to be really good all of a sudden just takes a really nice step. Talent's there, and they'll hope the rest falls into place. But then we'll jump into the schedule here, where the toughest portion comes right at the beginning. Cincinnati, at Pittsburgh, home to Tennessee, Baltimore, bye, and then San Francisco. So those are really tough games right out the gate. 5 really tough ones. The division's obviously really difficult, but the first 5 there, you'll kind of see where their ceiling is. If they're competitive in all these games and Deshaun Watson doesn't look like a pumpkin, they'll be good for the rest of the year, you'd think. So a really good litmus test right out the gate. The bye is a little bit early, but there's a lot kind of changing around here, so it might not be too bad. But you want later byes as contending teams. Then you come out at Indianapolis, at Seattle, home to Arizona, at Baltimore, then Pitt, and at Denver, which is another difficult stretch. Some good defenses in there, some good teams all around. But I like them in the trenches. It's going to be difficult for a lot of these teams to keep up. Could you imagine going to they're going to be home to Arizona, and Nick Chubb's going to run for 200 yards. They're just going to run the clock away and kill at home there. Division we talked about, very difficult. At Denver and at LA, we'll see what those teams are like. I think Denver takes a step up, but we'll see. Then we have Jacksonville, Chicago, at Houston, the Jets, and then at Cincinnati, which may not matter. So a softer landing. But all these games are pick 'em or they're comfortable favorites, except for 3-2. So at Cincy and at Baltimore will probably be their biggest underdog spots of the year, and those will be 3.5, maybe 3.5. So 15 games where you're a heavy favorite or pick 'em. We like over 9.5 at +108. And tomorrow we'll jump into a new team.